Hi everyone, welcome back to my eating channel, and in today's video is...
Salutations brethren, and apologies for being MIA. I've been working in the real world, depressed, and doing some side projects, and Squid Game Season 3 broke me. The modern world is descending into everything my girl Hannah Arendt warned it may if we fail to think and be humane. So in light of all that, I thought we'd talk about Asian fetish.
My name is Stephen Bolstad. I'm looking for a mate. I'm looking at Asian women to be that mate. One mate.
Oh boy. Once upon a time, there was a rather sweaty looking 60-year-old American D4C called Steven, who for 5 years had been scouring Chinese mail order bride sites in search of the perfect young, docile, submissive, and exotic mate. He found Sandy, a Chinese woman who didn't speak any English, and he brought her to the United States on a fiancé's visa. So ecstatic was Steven to finally begin his life with the Chinese woman of his fantasies that he allowed Chinese-American filmmaker Debbie Loom to document the first year of their joyous and authentic union. Sorry, I mean their turbulent, lost in translation, fiery, somewhat creepy, and in very much need of a marriage counselor union. Now, it probably isn't a stretch of the imagination to see that Steven is, or at least was, an Asian fetishist. If you don't know what Asian fetish or fever is, you've come far enough. Leave a like, mute this video, leave it playing in the background, and go on into the world with your pure and tainted soul. Praise be. But if you're a toxic little heathen like me, I will enlighten and corrupt you because this world is a sick and sad one anyway. So I'm guessing most of you have probably encountered a K-pop girly who's a little too into Asian men.
I mean, I watch a lot of anime, Asian shows like Korean dramas.
What is your type?
I'm definitely very into Asian men.
Or you've probably met a bro who's very into everything China.
I know China very well. China, 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 China.
In China, they say I don't like China. I love China.
He spends all his paid holidays in China. He refers to English as his second language now. And of course, his girlfriend is Chinese and her name is Sakura Tanaka. Yes, I know this guy. They are Steven's great and small, young and old. And if you're an Asian woman, I bet you know him too. This is Asian fetish, more commonly known as yellow fever. However, personally, I just do not feel that to be an appropriate word for me to use because of its anti-Asian history, and I've yet to see any human beings that look like Simpsons, so I will keep it kosher. But essentially, Asian fetish can be summed up as specifically non-Asians having a romantic, sexual, and/or an aesthetic preference for people of Asian descent. What makes the preference a fetish is the reduction of the person being fetishized to a level of objectification. Sandy is desired by Steven not because she's Sandy, but because he has pigeonholed her. He has reduced her personality and her physical appearance into stereotypes, into tropes and assumptions which satisfy his sexual, romantic, and aesthetic fantasies. It may be no surprise that Asians, specifically East Asian women, have historically been and continue to be the main victims of Asian fever. As a form of racial fetish that has a long and troubling history, Asian fetish very much rests on stereotypes that specifically Asian women are, and I quote, exotic, mysterious looking, and are kind of subtle and kind of quiet. Most fetishists either become completely obsessed with a particular Asian culture,
looks this kind of voice,
or they will simply mush together all diverse groups of Asian people and cultures into a generic Asian stereotype.
Of course he's got to be Asian. I think Japanese movies were really a big inspiration, like the samurai movies. I love just how they looked in their samurai outfits with their long, luscious hair, their eyes, their face, their skin tone. I love everything about them. So I found a social media page called Asian Men, White Women, and that is where I found my Asian prince. Johnny is from China.
Ah yes, when you want a samurai-wielding Japanese anime character to hold during those lonesome nights, so you start dating a Chinese man. In Western media, the fetishization and stereotyping of Asian women is as common as the 6 o'clock news starting at 6 o'clock. It's everywhere. There are whole subgenres of ASMR that are literally just Asian women role-playing hypersexuality, submissiveness, role-playing exoticism, and importantly, being soft-spoken in a generic so-called Asian accent, because, well, that's what sells on a Western platform like YouTube.
I like clean the house, you know, make look
Subliminal videos that purport to make Western women look more East Asian are also big bucks online because, yes, that East Asian skull is a must-have. I'm already feeling my Korean side coming in. Oppa. I hate shame, but I feel that shame is desperately needed here. The stereotype of East Asian woman as docile, childlike, and neotenous, but also as hypersexual tigers in the bedroom, is again everywhere. Madame Butterfly, as a book, an opera, a film, and its numerous remakes, has crystallized a tragic trope of Asian female eroticism. She is only significant insofar as she is an object of desire for a white man. If he stops desiring her, well, why would she want to live at all? It's not as if she has a child and life ahead of her. If you've watched the film or seen the opera, you will know exactly what I mean. The 1960 film The World of Susie Wong is another great example of this particular infantilization and hypersexualization of Asian woman in the West. Susie is an independent S-worker, but she's also totally helpless and treated as the child that she supposedly is by her pursuer, Robert. Susie is treated like dirt by Robert, but she still agrees to marry him. Chinese and Chinese American women being portrayed in film and generally viewed as promiscuous has been big business, not just in Hollywood since roughly the 1960s, but in US immigration policy. It was actually virtually impossible for Chinese women to immigrate to the US in the 1800s due to laws passed which meant that the very few Chinese women who were approved entry into the US were given a, quote, certificate of good moral character. The idea of Chinese women as as seductresses who use their feminine gifts to corrupt the good Christian character of American men has a long history in the West. And yet, Chinese women are also perceived as docile, as submissive and obedient to men, which was a big appeal to Stephen when he married Sandy.
I wish I knew what that was. Sounds funny.
A big theme throughout this video and what I've observed in my research is that a lot of Asian fetishists really like the language barrier. That is, they really like it when specifically an Asian woman speaks little to no English or struggles with her English grammar. This very much plays into fantasies exhibited in adult content, as well as the idea of the all-knowing white man acting as cultural guide and educator, who in this specific way is able to control what his bride can know and ultimately keeps her dependent. And on that note, I'm sure it is no surprise that a main proliferator of Asian fetish and the commodification of Asian women is, of course, the adult entertainment industry. Not in so much as it creates the fetish, in as much as it caters to it with no consequence or broader conversation into its harms. And this is because the adult industry is there to put people's fantasies at the forefront. A fetish like this is ultimately a fantasy. World-famous adult star Asa Akira has said that although she doesn't mind being fetishized in her work because it's fantasy, it isn't real, and it's for men, she does, however, mind being fetishized in her real and personal life. The thing with Asian fetishists and many aspects of our modern online world in general is that they do not draw that line, that all-essential line between fantasy and reality. They are either incapable or increasingly unwilling to draw that line. And when the fantasy inevitably fails to uphold itself in reality, it's somehow never the fetishist's fault or a flaw in their logic. When Sandy moved in with Stephen, Sandy wasn't a fetish, she was a woman. Stephen wasn't an all-knowing white savior, he was a man-child. Suddenly, Sandy not speaking English wasn't giving him his erotic fix.
What? Speaking English.
And that, brethren, is the basis of today's video. And this entire very elaborate introduction leads us to a fascinating woman called Yumi King and the dark side of the fetishization and stereotyping of Asian women in our modern times. I mean, both fetishizing and stereotyping are already dark, but I think what makes Yumi's online story just that much darker is how it is a cautionary tale against believing that a white man or anyone who fetishizes you will see you as an autonomous, interesting, and erudite woman and person in your own right, will be willing to see you as a human being and not as a fantasy. It's a cautionary tale against believing that fitting into any stereotype and into any fetish will reward or bless you with the happily ever after that Susie Wong got. Now, I know that marriage between Susie and Robert was anything but happy for her, which is why we never got a sequel titled The Married Life of Susie Wong. It's why Stephen and Sandy are, well, they're still married. And apparently Stephen did a lot of learning and introspection. But we are here to talk about a man who didn't do a lot of learning or introspection whatsoever. A man who came into Yumi King's life and did things that blew me away, like very few things have recently. We may not have gotten the married life of Susie Wong, but we did get the married life of Yumi King. And boy, have I got a story for you. In 2011, a 20-year-old Yumi King would immigrate from Nanjing, China to the United States. She immigrated with her mother to come and live with her stepfather. I think it important for broader context to note that Yumi's stepfather is white, and Yumi was clearly very close to both her mother and stepfather. Living in Eastern Washington, Yumi clearly spent most of her time alone, stating that she watched movies all day on the weekends at home, sewed in the kitchen with her mother, and would stay at home learning English in her stepfather's study. Now, Yumi would post her first YouTube video in 2014. Originally called Designs by Yumi, her initial videos raked in consistently high views pretty much immediately due to her phenomenal skills as a self-taught seamstress. And this was because her channel was a sort of safe space for everything hyper feminine, girly, cutesy, and DIY. Yumi was very much a part of the Kawaii boom of the time, and her channel overwhelmingly attracted a young girl audience attracted to her cosplaying, attracted to her sewing her own cosplaying outfits, her very petite body type being goals as they describe her, as well as to Yumi making the kawaii boom accessible to them via DIY tutorials. And I'd say that this was the first obvious instance of Yumi's infantilization. In her initial and very popular videos, Yumi hardly ever spoke on her channel. In fact, I cannot find an instance of her speaking until well into her second year on YouTube. And mind you, she was uploading daily, giving her audience very detailed tutorials, and by this point was a very good English speaker. During her initial years on YouTube, her personality was essentially reduced to her clothes, her facial expressions, and girl-like mannerisms, which, although it made people love her and think her cute and kawaii, am I doing that right? It also resulted in her being perceived as somewhat of an infant. There was a lot of speculation about her age at the time. Most people thought that she was a lot younger than she actually was. Something that Yumi's young audience especially liked was her willingness to cosplay and dress in her kawaii and Lolita clothing in public. And this was what essentially blew up her channel. These videos went viral and featured Yumi in the wild, dressed in her signature looks and creations. She was commended for her confidence by preteens and teen girls who aspired to be just like her, who were truly in awe of her life and of course her cuteness, and importantly, how her body looked. Now, it was obvious that Yumi was being filmed, sometimes rather suggestively, by someone in these videos, but who, nobody knew. At the time, nobody seemed to give it much thought, but based on some of the camera angles as well as close-up footage of her eating with on-screen text saying that she was gaining 2.5 pounds overnight, so sad, Yumi's cameraman would eventually be revealed. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The important thing here is that Yumi was being filmed in very particular cosplay outfits that young girls and teens were in absolute awe of. The only bit of personal information people got from Yumi was in 2015, a whole year after she started her YouTube channel, when she announced that she'd gotten into the University of Washington to study design and computer programming. Now, it was also during this time that online sleuths found Yumi's OkCupid dating profile, and her profile provides us with some rather valuable information and insights into everything that is regrettably about to unfold. On her profile, she stated that she's looking for a husband. He is ambitious, he has goals and plans, he can take good care of me, he wants a family and kids, he is successful. She continues to say that she hopes to find an everlasting love which never breaks and to live happily ever after. What I find interesting is that in wanting to find this everlasting, idealistic happily ever after, she states that she plans to be married by the end of the following year. ambitious. She details how she wears skirts and dresses all the time, even in the cold winter, which really signaled what she was looking for. Yumi wanted a traditional man, a man who wanted a housewife and did not play video games. Her profile very much signaled traditional values, family orientation, and marriage. She wanted to be married more than anything else. And this dating profile did the trick. Based on her cosplay and public videos, it became apparent that her cameraman was in fact her boyfriend. And once it became known that her cameraman was her boyfriend, many of the poses and positions that she'd find herself in made a bit more sense. For instance, Yumi and her boyfriend went to New York together, and Yumi, cosplaying in public, would pose in front of the 9/11 memorial as well as a particular region of the body of the charging bull in a very innocent and childlike way. Need I say more? In her initial videos with her boyfriend, Yumi wouldn't show his face at all. He was just the man behind the camera, but she would eventually debut him on Instagram. Now, this debut post caused quite a bit of controversy at the time, due entirely to the fact that Yumi had clearly, very heavily airbrushed him. The way his paws have gone extinct is sending me. This kind of airbrushing needs to be illegal, I swear. This is warping our sense of physically embodied selves, people. There was major debate, and I mean major debate, about this man's age. And this resulted in Yumi becoming what is known as a lolcow, and forums popping up all over the place about her. Yumi's fans were adamant that her boyfriend was 30 years old, courtesy of the airbrush glimpses of him on Yumi's Instagram posts. Yet her new lolcow audience were convinced that he was a lot older. There were legitimate fan and lolcow art wars between these two factions, depicting Yumi's boyfriend as young and hot or not so young and hot. You know, it's stuff like this that makes me love and fear the internet so much. According to publicly available information, Yumi's boyfriend was in fact in his late 40s at the time that this was all going down. Now, I think all of this essentially pressured Yumi into debuting her boyfriend. Although the airbrushing debacle was a little bump in the road, people were very receptive to knowing more about Yumi's personal life. Yumi was already popular, she was already uploading sometimes multiple times a day, so naturally debuting her boyfriend offered her an opportunity. And I mean, how much harm could sharing your personal life do? Famous last words. So from 2016, Yumi's content took a noticeable turn. She began to talk more in her videos. This was attributed to her English improving and her becoming more confident in front of the camera. And I'd argue that her becoming more confident in front of the camera had a lot to do with her boyfriend being behind the camera while she cosplayed in increasingly mature outfits. No longer was it about looking simply kawaii, cutesy, and adorable. Now, her cosplays were more about looking what is called ero kawaii and sexy cute, thanks to a very special man.
My boyfriend and I have long distance relationship. Even though I'm 25, almost 26, I don't feel my age. My heart is young, like 18, but my mind is mature. I know what to do to make my life better and better, like finishing university, keeping healthy, being a good heart, and I find the best boyfriend ever. Yay!
Now, everything about Yumi's boyfriend's personality and his numerous controversies can pretty much be summed up by the name he'd almost instantaneously be christened with by her followers: Splenda. No! Splenda is a most interesting name to be unanimously given by the World Wide Web. This name isn't bestowed upon just anybody. Oh no, you have to truly earn it. Now, if you, like me, until writing this video, don't know what a Splenda is, well, I'm about to corrupt your innocent little minds yet again. Basically, in the world of sugaring, you have sugar daddies and Splenda or salt daddies. Splenda Splenda daddies want to be sugar daddies, but don't have the funds or class status to be considered sugar daddies.
I am not a sugar daddy. The fact that I'm older than her
he doesn't have any money.
Is a mere...
Now, in theory, Splenda daddies shouldn't have as many options when it comes to choosing sugar babies. But because we are living in a failing modern economy, sugar babies are a growing phenomenon, and therefore there is a higher supply of sugar babies than there are sugar daddies. Now, this is fantastic news for Splenda daddies. Based on personal testimonies, most sugar babies are forced to settle for Splenda daddies or realize too late that what they believe to be a white-collar sugar daddy is in actual fact a financially insecure, frugal, and lower-class Splenda. As such, many sugar babies, like men on dating apps competing for women, find themselves competing for a small and in high demand pool of eligible sugar daddies. Sugar daddies will take you to 5-star hotels. Splendas will take you to a 2-star hotel and won't pay for room service. Sugar daddies will take you to a golf resort. Splendas will take you to mini golf. Sugar daddies will pay for your boob job. Splenda daddies have to use their imaginations. Now, Yumi's boyfriend was instantly dubbed a Splenda daddy. In fact, I doubt many people even remember his actual name. Splenda is pretty much associated with this face for eternity, and this is largely based on the activities him and Yumi engaged in, his fashion sense, as well as his blue-collar aesthetic and hobbies. Now, just before we get into everything Splenda, I think it's important to evaluate Yumi's situation when considering the question, why Splenda? Why would a young, beautiful, now 26-year-old woman with a bright professional and creative future ahead of her choose a much older man to become a housewife and dependent to? Well, when evaluating her situation, Splenda actually makes a lot of sense. At 26, Yumi still lived with her mother and stepfather. It was blatantly clear that Yumi's mother wanted her daughter to get married and start having children. In fact, this was the only thing Yumi's mother demanded of her. A video that went viral on Yumi's channel titled My Pregnancy and Menstrual Pre-Preparation Diet 2017 revealed a lot.
It shocked me at the beginning when my mom was trying to make me eat this.
Basically, Yumi would reveal that her mother made her consume donkey hide gelatin every morning. Her mother would dilute it into a traditional Chinese medicine called Eijua. Every single day, Yumi was made to drink this because her mother believed it would prepare her for marriage and pregnancy.
So my mom suggested me to eat this every single day. The main reason is that she wants me to be prepared for marriage and prepared for having kids. That's the main reason why I eat this. She just wants to be grandma so badly, and she wants grandkids.
This, alongside many of her personal videos, began to demonstrate how very dependent Yumi was and how, more importantly, she was encouraged to be.
So that's what my mom just called, and she asked me why I posted video like after midnight, because she likes me to go to bed early, like before 10:30. It's not good go to bed that late.
Now, just note that this is a woman in her mid-20s. Because of her particular cultural expectations, marriage and pregnancy were the only things expected of and pressured into her. Yumi would actually admit that her biggest fear in life was becoming a so-called leftover woman, known in China as shengnu, which describes women in their late 20s and beyond who are unmarried.
I asked myself why nobody wanted to marry me, why they were not serious. I was very worried because a lot of my old friends are getting married and have kids. I thought I was late. I thought I was a leftover woman.
Leftover woman is actually the official term used and popularized by the CCP to effectively stigmatize and shame women who remain single and don't procreate. Now, I believe that a lot of Yumi's priorities and draw to Splenda had to do with her being a young Chinese woman petrified of being left over, raised by a mother who she was very close and obedient to, and who wanted nothing more than for her daughter to marry as soon as possible and to start having babies. Gender inequality inequality and sexism are a major issue in contemporary patriarchal China due to many factors like China's aging population crisis and low birth rate. Government initiatives, policy, and social pressure mean that women are being encouraged to prioritize family over work. Women like Yumi are afraid to be labeled as leftover woman due to the shame it could bring to their families. Women like Yumi state that they want to be housewives, even though she was getting a college degree and running a successful YouTube channel. And based on Yumi's dating profile, it was obvious that not being married at her age was a clear point of shame for her. Now, immediately after graduating from college in 2017, Yumi would move from her parents' house to Georgia to live permanently with Splenda, to begin assuming her role as a dependent house girlfriend. And she would pretty much immediately make a big announcement.
There is something my fiancé and I wanted to tell you guys a long time ago. Yes, we're engaged.
So on announcing her engagement to Splenda, Yumi would reveal that they'd actually been engaged for 1.5 years already. They had actually gotten engaged in December 2015, which based on the timeline of their relationship and Yumi's OkCupid profile would suggest they got engaged within the first year of knowing each other, which is fast work, truly. Now, Yumi and Splenda would get married in November 2017, immediately after Yumi's graduation, immediately after announcing their 1.5-year-long engagement, and immediately after Yumi's move to Georgia. Yumi essentially moved from one situation of full dependency to another. Although I'm blurring out his face, Splenda and Yumi's stepfather have an uncanny resemblance. You really can't miss it, and I can at least speculate that Splenda represented the same kind of financial security to Yumi that her stepfather had clearly shown her and her mother. Their wedding went absolutely viral. Splenda whisked his beautiful princess away into the sunset, and the two lived happily ever after. God, imagine if that was it, huh? Disney has done us dirty, ladies. So there were several controversies that truly stand out when it came to the married life of Yumi King and Splenda. These controversies are integral life and relationship lessons for us all. Now, it's important to remember that Yumi's primary audience were young girls and teenage girls who had been watching her content for cutesy, kawaii, DIY content and aesthetics. This audience was now being exposed to a relationship dynamic that rapidly pointed to being everything I relayed in the introduction. Splenda was allegedly a fetishist, and Yumi and Splenda were allegedly in what is known as a DDLG relationship that her entire audience, unbeknownst to them, was made a part of.
What are you looking at?
That moment when your wife catches you looking up pictures of young Asian women. Anyway, what viewers immediately noticed was that Splenda never called Yumi by her name, ever. She was officially, exclusively known as either Sweetie or more so, Baby Girl.
My boyfriend calls me baby girl, and he also called me Sweetie the most of the time. As I mentioned in my other videos, my boyfriend doesn't really call me YouTube name or my real name. Yeah, he calls me Sweetie and Baby Girl.
This caused some controversy, which Yumi would essentially dismiss when showing us her Baby Girl necklace.
Another definition is that the most wonderful person that a guy could ever met, and someone who means more than anything in the entire world. So the Baby Girl is a positive word.
Now, if we dismiss the Urban Dictionary for what it is for just a minute, and if we dismiss Gen Z's recent co-option of baby girl as a term of endearment for soft, more submissive and effeminate men, baby girl actually has its roots in the BDSM subgenre of DDLG. If you don't know, DDLG stands for Daddy Dom and Little Girl, and is a form of adult age play. And with that in mind, Yumi had clearly evolved her style from mere kawaii, cutesy aesthetics into what is known as baby girl aesthetic. This evolution had really happened as soon as Splenda came into the picture. Baby girl aesthetic is all about being sweet and innocent, childlike and dependent on a daddy dom, yet has a very obvious sexual element to it. Now, Yumi's honeymoon and early marriage was revelatory of many prior instances which pointed to her and Splenda's entire relationship being DDLG and her very much being his baby girl. In an older video of them eating at a Chinese buffet, Yumi asked Splenda permission to eat food like a child might ask their parent.
It tastes good. Can I add more spice?
Yeah, sweetie, you can add spice here.
Just a note, I'm not kink shaming, I am Splenda shaming. And also I can shame them, kids and teens are watching this. And knowing this dynamic became apparent in many of her earlier videos with Splenda. Yumi would not only act incredibly childlike, but also began wearing a cat collar.
We need measuring tape and pencil and screwdriver and
A level.
level. Okay, let's start. Let's go get some food first and then we'll go ice skating. I learned how to do skating when I was 7. I got a bear.
A bear?
Bear.
Bear?
Bear.
Bear? You've got a bear hanging around your neck? Grrr.
Bear. 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 Bear.
Bell.
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 Hi everyone, we'll have food tasting today.
Are you wanting a hug?
Collars, especially collars in the context of DDLG, represent submission and signify a kind of display of ownership known as collaring. It's essentially a way for a submissive or little to feel a sense of security or permanence in their relationship to their dominant partner or daddy. I would speculate that the appeal of this for Yumi came from her clearly very desperately wanting to be married. And I would definitely imagine that it gave her a sense of security in her relationship with Splenda, especially while she was a student and they were in a long distance relationship. They were engaged for over a year, they were long distance, and remember, her mother in particular wanted nothing more than for Yumi to get married and have children. Yumi herself aspired to be nothing more than a housewife. Also, and in relation to that, we know that by her disposition, her socialization and lifestyle with her family, Yumi was very dependent and heavily infantilized by all the adults in her life and online. As a result, Yumi being in this kind of sub-dom relationship, weirdly enough, makes a lot of sense to me. Her not seeing how insanely inappropriate this was, that is, her essentially roping her unassuming child audience into being all essential spectators to this relationship, for me at least, shows an insane level of carelessness and naivety that I would only expect of an infantilized adult. Because acting and dressing like a child made Yumi happy, because it made Splenda happy, I don't think she was willing to deeply introspect. For her, acting like a child was fun, and therefore it couldn't possibly be bad or harmful. Because this was essentially a fantasy, specifically Splenda's fantasy, it wasn't real and therefore couldn't be bad. It couldn't be harmful.
I saw some comments saying about why I act like a child. When I have fun, I do like a child, but when I'm doing something serious, I act serious. There is nothing wrong acting like a child when you are playing.
Splenda, since the get-go, would film Yumi in some rather questionable ways. Now that everybody knew that Splenda was the cameraman behind Yumi's viral cosplaying in public series, it left somewhat of a weird aftertaste for many. It felt like Yumi wasn't cosplaying in public in some kind kind of defiant act of bravery and self-expression, in as much as sexually cosplaying for her man who liked to film her body. So what made this relationship at least appear to be DDLG? Firstly, the activities Splenda and Yumi would do were reminiscent of a parent taking his little daughter on a day trip, literally. For instance, Splenda would take Yumi to a corn maze that was primarily populated with kids. Yumi would do the kids' activities and act like a child. As we've gathered, Splenda also liked filming Yumi's body. My little gay brain is too vanilla for this. And yet my vanilla brain can see the not safe for work 18+ overt undertones to this kind of content. Splenda also liked Yumi to wear doll dresses.
My boyfriend likes me wear doll dresses, so I think I'll either wear strawberry dress or bunny dress.
He pumped her with vitamins like a parent making sure their child takes their daily supplements.
There's too many vitamins.
This is a multivitamin. This is a probiotic, so it's good for your digestion. This is for vision. This is for healthy skin and nails. It's a collagen enhancing. It's got collagen in it. And this is a vitamin C, and vitamin C is always good for you.
Okay.
There were instances of him instructing her to smile and look cute for the camera like a parent would.
You're doing good, sweetie. But you just need to make sure to smile and look cute, because you're on camera.
It was also impossible not to notice that Yumi herself acted more and more like a child.
And turn your shoulders to me.
Think you're done with this one, or?
I won't sit on your lap and put down my socks.
Okay.
She started to talk like a little girl.
It's good we are not eating too much at night. Too much wasabi. It'll be in the video.
Her conversations with Splenda felt like how a parent talks to their child, explaining things to them in simplistic, basic terms because they don't know anything or have limited understanding.
I don't know how to use it.
What, this thing?
Yes, I never...
What do you call it?
It's diffuser.
Ambiance.
What is ambience?
Ambiance is when you make your room feel good and smell good with light and smells.
We just got back from the dental place.
The dentist.
Hmm?
The dentist.
The dentist?
Yep.
Yeah, what's the dentist?
Dental place.
Yes.
Usually we just say dentist.
Mind you, this is a college-educated woman who is fluent in English.
What's this called?
Tiny rice.
Tiny rice? You call it tiny rice?
No.
What do you call this?
What I call it is what adults call it. What you call it is what baby girl calls it.
A few moments later.
I also check business emails.
I love how after we're informed that adults don't call quinoa tiny rice, only baby girls like Yumi do, she begins to check her business emails like the baby girl boss she is. It also felt like when Splenda wasn't in control of the camera or when Yumi was clearly taking charge of the video in a way that wasn't exactly playing into their relationship dynamic, that Splenda either lacked interest or would get annoyed. For instance, in this video from their dating days, Yumi talks back to him and is acting quite assertively even though she's wearing her signature collar. Splenda is annoyed and completely unamused throughout the video.
I have a pen. I have pineapple.
It's an apple.
What are you doing?
Just...
He tells her to sit down. She won't, and he gets visibly annoyed.
Can you see this? Is my head cut off?
Yes.
Okay, back down. Sit back down. Do
No,
it.
no, I can adjust. I can adjust. I will adjust.
It was clear. Yumi had to be submissive, docile, and like an infant in her videos. Now, there were many somewhat bizarre controversies during the duration of Yumi and Splenda's marriage. As I said, their honeymoon was the first real instance of Splenda's attitude toward his wife. Not even a day after marriage, Splenda would make some comments which some of their followers took issue with.
The old lady cursed you with ugly bangs.
I feel like it has mirror everywhere.
Yes.
I think it makes room look bigger.
Yes, the mirrors make the room look bigger, plus you can see yourself.
Do you want to install some mirrors in the house?
Only on the ceilings.
However, because Splenda was quite a funny guy, it was initially very difficult for people to discern between him making blunt jokes about his wife, at her expense of course, and actually berating her. But of course, these were early days and nothing too noticeable happened during their first year of marriage. Their dynamic continued as it always had. Yumi continued making her usual stream of content, hitting over 800k subscribers, and she seemed to be keeping herself busy as a homemaker. This, however, would all end with the China trip saga, in which after a year of marriage, Yumi and Splenda would take a trip to China. Now, it was obvious that this was very important to Yumi, and understandably. She was taking her husband to her country. She wanted to show him her culture and her heritage. When I tell you that this man single-handedly lost the respect of anyone who thought him a mere funny guy on the internet, it was very apparent from this trip that Splenda got off on humiliating Yumi in public and had little to surface level interest in her culture and heritage.
Okay, here we are at the food temple. It's candy time. I saw lots of street food with various kinds of candy. She's embarrassed.
He loved Yumi in doll dresses, but he hated it when she wore hanfu dresses.
That's why I hate these dresses. When you wear those dresses, the whole thing goes with it, and your hair's always falling down, and we have to walk slow, and you're always stepping on them.
Isn't it swell when your husband hates your traditional attire that means something to you and your identity? This is not only what I hate about alleged fetishists, but it is also the mark of a fetishist. Many fetishists don't care about the culture they fetishize if it doesn't immediately serve their egos or their fantasy. China as a country, a culture and society doesn't matter unless the fetishist is the main character. And on their China trip, Splenda suddenly wasn't the main character. In China, Yumi wasn't dressing for him. She wasn't participating in anything DDLG in public. When eating at a restaurant, Splenda proceeded to berate Yumi for how she ate and drank her meal.
Does that make it taste better?
He doesn't care or respect that his wife is Chinese and therefore slurping and making noises when eating soup or noodles shows enjoyment. It shows respect to the chef. In China, eating is far more important than simply eating food. It's considered an art form, and this is a widespread, important culinary practice and etiquette. My question is, how does Splenda not know this or respect this about his wife and her culture? A wife he's been married to for over a year and has been dating for years prior. And he's in China. Why is he looking down on what his Chinese wife is doing appropriately and culturally in her own country? In fact, Splenda had a knack for correcting how his wife ate food and liked to complain about it.
Sweetie. Sweetie, the only issue is when you've got little bits of cartilage and bone dribbling out of your mouth. You see, you gotta be careful where the food's going when you're spitting it.
The sesame ball is dessert.
Is it? Well, that one's yours because you put your hands on it.
Okay.
The other two are mine.
You don't like the chicken feet?
Sweetie, I'm not in the mood to grind up chicken bones in your mouth and spit them out of my throat. It makes me uncomfortable to do this, right? I don't...
This is enough to put anybody off dating outside their culture. Good Lord. It's giving the same energy as him never calling Yumi by her real name and only calling her sweetie or baby girl. And of course, it gets so much worse. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer for this particular incident, which as far as I can gather happened during the China trip, but for some reason was uploaded a year later. In a video reviewing eyeglasses with Splenda, Yumi accidentally sits on one of the pairs of spectacles. Splenda's reaction to his underweight wife accidentally leaning within the vicinity of a pair of cheap eyeglasses was concerning to say the least.
We're gonna walk back over there and you get to say, oh, I got home and I sat on them. Brand new, we barely got them in the door, baby. Well, I don't know how they're gonna fix it other than to bend it back. I'm afraid that, because this metal is thin, and once it's bent and you bend it back, it can easily snap after that. Do you understand?
Just don't know how to think about this.
Well, I know how to think about it, baby. You need to be careful with stuff.
Her face says it all. The way he berates and explains things to her like she knows nothing enrages me. I'd say the main reason why it felt so off to me was how determined Yumi was to laugh it off as nothing. Splenda naturally received a ton of backlash for this deplorable behavior, which resulted in Yumi retitling the video to, and I quote, "Was an accident, a scared yell. I thought the yell was funny, like me when bugs crawl on my skin." She'd upload a video that was major damage control on Splenda's part. We were now presented with a happy, animated Splenda, who in the response video is all over Yumi, kissing her and being overly affectionate. I was only able to retrieve the audio file of this video. Yes, I went deep for this one, brethren. But just from how intensely he's love bombing her, people really weren't buying it.
I want to make this video because I don't want you guys concerned about me. That video I recorded last year when I was in China. It was an old video, long time ago, and he just and thank you so much for so care about me and love us, and just don't worry about anything.
Can we go get sushi now?
Yes, we should go get sushi.
I'll even put all the salmon nigiri on my plate so it looks like I'm the one that's hogging all the sushi.
Why you don't have a filter on your face? Okay, bye. I just want to make the short, super quick video. Bye-bye.
This was, to put it mildly, very concerning behavior. Oh, and it gets worse. A running controversy and overall theme of Yumi and Splenda's relationship was Yumi's weight. Now, Yumi has always been hyperfixated on her weight.
Hi everyone, today I'll give you some tips on how to look skinny and taller in the photos. Look, that's a really big difference. On the left, I look shorter. My legs look thicker, and on the right, I look a lot taller. And please take a look at my legs. Look a lot skinnier.
And just note that when she made videos like these, her audience were pre-teen and teen girls. Every morning, Yumi weighed herself and, quote, prayed that she'd lose weight.
Every morning, I just pray I can lose 1 or 2 pounds. I was 95 pounds when I was 18, but now I gained a lot. I'm very upset.
So I'm South African and we work in kgs. So Yumi was 95 pounds, which is roughly 43 kgs. So she was 43 kgs when she was 19, which is quite far under what would be considered a healthy weight range for a then 19-year-old female of Yumi's height. Yumi was very upset that she now, in her mid-20s, weighed 108.5 pounds or just over 49 kgs. 49 kgs. She also prioritized bowel movements in her daily routine because she believed that having a bowel movement was not only good for her skin, but would also contribute to her weight loss journey.
Then it's toilet time. It might sound weird, but this is the most important thing in the morning for me because I think having good bowel movement can help you lose weight and have a clear skin?
No, it does not. You may feel like an emaciated, starved, heroin chic model after a dump, but thank God it won't make you one. Now, Yumi is a great and rather tragic example of intersecting cultures and subcultures' darker elements. She's a young Chinese woman, and if you've ever been on Red Note, where over 70% of users are female, where fashion influencing is dominant, and its demographic is overwhelmingly young millennial and Gen Z women and girls, you'll know that an ultra-thin ideal permeates modern China. For instance, have you ever heard of BM girls or BM style? Well, Brandy Melville girls are employees who not only work for, but also feature incessantly on the social media of the fast fashion label Brandy Melville. And these employees are known for being tall, pale, and skinny. Brandy Melville's website exclusively features this questionable look and infamously only stocks clothes in sizes extra small and sometimes small. This is universally known as the Brandy Melville one-size-fits-all situation. Now, Brandy Melville went super viral in specifically Shanghai in the early 2020s, and this caused a major stir, notably because Brandy Melville's one-size-fits-all is smaller than the average Chinese woman, but at the same time, an ultra-thin body ideal is prevalent. A well-documented cycle on Chinese social media sites like Red Note and Weibo is that when something trends, which is usually always in the service of promoting thinness, toxic and harmful practices for fitting into that thin ideal begin to proliferate among young women and girls. There was the A4 paper waist challenge, the belly button challenge, the iPhone 6 knees challenge, the banknote wrist challenge, the Uniqlo kids clothes trend, and of course the BM girl trend. In China, a saying that translates to, quote, "A good woman cannot weigh over 50 kgs" feeds directly into the objectification of Chinese women in the interest of patriarchal norms. Women who are heavier than 50 kgs are considered lazy and lack self-discipline because they cannot seem to take care of themselves, says Chinese psychologist Dr. K. Some women believe this so much that they think it'll affect their marriage prospects. Being slim and beautiful implies good value as an object. And I only give this long-winded spiel in relation to Yumi because she is a Chinese woman who clearly, to this day, has a fear of gaining weight and is disappointed that she, as an adult woman, weighs 49 kgs. Her life and relationship dynamic were dictated heavily by catering to the submissive male gaze of Splenda. Yumi was also a cosplayer and Kawaii enthusiast, which overwhelmingly features girls and women who are very thin or petite, wearing small, tight, cutesy, and childlike clothing, which also adds a bit of a dilemma into the mix if it becomes sexual, like it did between Yumi and Splenda. A child or young girl is childlike and neotenous. She eats a lot of food, especially junk food and sweets. She's meant to be plump and have rosy, round features as a child does. However, Yumi is also meant to be skinny, ultra skinny, and fit into a very particular toxic and pervasive East Asian beauty standard. So interestingly, and as I said, rather tragically, Yumi seemed to find herself caught between two conflicting ideals of woman as objects, and she fulfilled these two conflicting roles diligently. Splenda, as daddy, would cook the meals for his little girl, but noticeably, healthy foods weren't really on his radar.
I gained so much, I can't believe it.
You want mustard?
Yumi, as a young girl, loved junk food, but as a very body-conscious woman, hated it.
I can't help myself. I love junk food and I hate junk food.
Not only did she dress for Splenda,
So I just changed another outfit. I think my boyfriend will like this one better.
Splenda was also always very interested in Yumi's weight.
I do dessert.
Yellow dessert.
Pineapple.
How much do you weigh?
I gained 3 pounds.
No dessert.
For me?
All for you.
Thank you.
How much did you weigh this morning?
107.
the sushi for you.
Now, I think all of these controversies and the true colors of Splenda coming out really resulted in a lot of Yumi's audience teetering off. She wasn't getting nearly the number of views that she got pre-Splenda, and more of her fan base had gone over to the side of her former detractors. The local forums were packed with information at this point, and Yumi was officially disliked. Now, as we know, Yumi and her mother wanted nothing more than for Yumi to get married and have children. It was time to procreate. And this was something that Splenda was seemingly fully on board with.
If you get pregnant this year.
We can assume that they met via OkCupid, and Yumi was very clear that children were a big priority for her. Yumi would announce that she and Splenda were trying to conceive in 2019. And so it was no surprise when, in January 2020, Yumi and Splenda announced their pregnancy. Yumi's pregnancy was truly a pivotal, transformative moment on her channel. It was as if getting pregnant completely metamorphosized Yumi King, not physically, but mentally. She stopped uploading to YouTube daily for the first time since starting her channel. Pregnancy seemed to really put a lot of things into perspective for her, especially her idealistic views of what pregnancy would be like.
Right now, I'm very uncomfortable. I'm holding it. So today we'll have an ultrasound. I'm excited for this. Right now, I just want to throw up, so I talk very difficultly.
I believe that what happened is that Yumi's rather naive ideal of pregnancy as a happy, fulfilling, and enriching experience didn't match up to the reality. And to be fair, can you blame her, considering how she'd been raised and treated like a child by everyone around her? Rather than it being a swell time, she actually experienced major depression, and it was clear that she was lonely, confused, and disappointed, as she would say.
It's supposed to be the happiest moment in my life. But sometimes I think, I don't know, I feel very disappointed.
It was apparent that the internet was her only real emotional support system during this time. And I think that having to figure things out on her own really pushed her into an entirely new mindset and understanding of herself.
Sometimes I can't control my tears. I feel disappointed that the hormones really make you so emotional about everything. I have been looking for fun things to do to make myself happier, and something is not what I expect. I feel lonely a lot, so I want to talk.
This, in my opinion, was the first instance of Yumi being faced with a hard reality that she had to navigate independently. As I said, pregnancy completely transformed Yumi, not just physically, but mentally. She was going to become a mother, and being a little girl didn't play into that equation.
And my life changed again after I got pregnant. When you get pregnant, your life will be changed. You probably noticed that I don't publish videos as often as before. I publish videos like once a week when I have time. I feel less stressful and I enjoy doing something else. After I give birth, I'm not sure if I will have the same amount time to make YouTube videos. I'm sure my life will change after I gave birth.
This video, like many during her pregnancy, showed Yumi speaking fluent English in a normal, measured voice and cadence. She stopped cosplaying as much in her videos for obvious reasons, especially wearing doll dresses, as well as her infamous bangs that were a big part of her childlike appeal. Now, I would say that Yumi didn't initially mind being fetishized by Splenda, allegedly fetishized by Splenda, because, well, it was fantasy. It wasn't real. She was role-playing, and their relationship relationship clearly had a transactional aspect to it. He wanted a particular kind of Asian woman and allegedly a DDLG relationship. She wanted a provider who could give her children. Similarly to how I referenced Asa Akira not minding being fetishized in her work because it was fantasy, I would hazard that Yumi saw it as work, as something fun that played into her aesthetic, into her work, and into being the submissive housewife that her husband wanted. Essentially, it secured her a husband. However, unlike fantasy, marriage is real and having children is real. And it was noticeable that when Yumi got married, when starting her real life became a priority, she started to put the fantasies aside. And I think that when Yumi started to put aside the fantasies and started to prioritize becoming a mother, Splenda's problematic behavior and alleged fetish became a lot more obvious.
So did she tell you guys the good news?
Yes, I did.
So Yumi's pregnancy was pivotal in reevaluating her priorities and in more clearly exposing Splenda's ways. The couple would officially announce their pregnancy in May of 2020 on YouTube. This video already showed how alone Yumi was in her pregnancy. Splenda grills and tries to shame her for having very common and understandable mood swings.
Did you tell them about how you got angry at me because the doctor wouldn't see you until it was like 9 weeks?
Yes.
Why did you get angry? Because you thought that I just didn't want to make a doctor appointment? But the doctors won't see you until 9 weeks. Did you tell them how moody you've been?
No, I did on the Patreon.
Did you tell them that some days you cry?
On the Patreon.
And then like a moment you're a little bit happy? And then you cried again? Did you tell them you get angry all the time too?
On the Patreon.
Did you tell them that you throw up? Oh, you've been throwing up. Do you throw up morning to night?
At night.
Do you get angry when you throw up?
Yes.
Yes, because apparently it's my fault.
The way he speaks to her like a child, gaslighting her feelings as if he's somehow aggrieved because she's going through the most dramatic bodily and hormonal transformations that the human body can ever go through, is so icky.
Before you got pregnant, you was like the most important thing in the world, right?
Yes.
And what did you tell me the other night when you were sitting on the bed crying? What'd you say?
I won't get pregnant the second time.
What'd you say? I don't want to be fat. I want to wear pretty clothes. I want to go outside the house. I want to go do something. I don't want to be pregnant anymore.
May this kind of love never find me. One thing that was noteworthy during Yumi's pregnancy was that Splenda, who also loved being behind and in front of the camera, began to appear less and less on the channel. The last time he'd made an official appearance was in April of 2020, and as Splenda began to appear less and less, Yumi's aesthetic transformation became more and more pronounced. Even her infrequent cosplaying during this time had a more authentic and less infantile tone to it. She even started selling and getting rid of her closet, which included many Lolita, cutesy, and kinky items. We would unofficially see Splenda for the last time in Yumi's official birth story video, or rather his arms, cradling his newborn son. Now, as soon as their son was born, people were expecting a return to normal. They were expecting Splenda's imminent return to his role as creepy cameraman and berater of his wife. They were expecting Yumi and Splenda to rekindle their alleged DDLG relationship, a relationship which heavily depended on her cosplaying and acting in such a way that made her desirable to Splenda. Based on what we know of Yumi, nobody was expecting her to embrace motherhood in quite the way that she did. And because of her very toxic relationship with her weight and body image, people were also expecting her to hyperfixate on losing weight again, as well as for her to plaster her child all over her social media. However, the complete opposite happened. It was clear that her son was her world and nothing was getting in the way of that. Yumi refused to show his face on camera and from the get-go was very protective of his privacy. Her uploads in general became less and less frequent and she was taking being a full-time mom very seriously. People noticed how after giving birth, Yumi did start to lose weight. However, her response to this was also quite uncharacteristic of the Yumi her followers knew. Her changing priorities ease and better relationship with herself can be seen in a post-pregnancy video, in which she reveals that although she's gotten skinnier, her post-pregnancy weight loss had been a result of stress. She now knows that losing weight in this way isn't healthy and states that she needs to better manage her stress in order to become healthier.
I'll try to manage my stress and to get healthier.
Now, this may seem like a nothing burger, but to come from a place of major body image issues, as well as from a culture where being skinny at any cost is lauded, to actually putting your health first is huge. Whereas being skinny and losing weight would have previously made Yumi very happy, becoming healthy and stress-free became her goal. Something which, based on what we know of Yumi, digressed stupendously from her usual centering of the male gaze, her usual centering of Splenda's gaze. Now, a few months after giving birth, people began to notice something else. The background of Yumi's video changed from her usual very spacious Georgia home to a popcorn textured wall that she'd never filmed in front of before. She was also wearing glasses, and dare I say it, she was also wearing everyday clothes that people had never ever seen her in before. Considering this and the complete disappearance of Splenda from Yumi's content, the rumor mill was in full swing, working overtime. The forums were frothing at the bit, speculating into what on earth was going on. What had happened to YouTube's most infantilized woman? And just as importantly, what had happened to Splenda? Well, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to lighten the mood here. Not even a year after her son was born, Yumi would post a video in June of 2021 titled, "Please help us. I have to sell a room of my clothing for living." Now, this was truly odd. Who the us was, nobody really knew, but it was obvious that Yumi clearly needed money fast and was selling her clothes on the app Pushmark as a result.
I really think Pushmark is a really great app that you can make money from home. It's hard for me to leave the house and to work during the day. In my case, because I'm a full-time mom, so it's great if you are able to work from home. So as a full-time mom, I tried my best to work from home.
She was selling many of her DIY Lolita clothes and accessories and many of her favorite and most sentimental clothes. Something was clearly up, and rumors were running even more rampant. It would be another 5 months before all would be revealed, and I don't think anybody was quite expecting even an ounce of what Yumi was about to tell them, or what online sleuths would unearth from the depths of this twisted, harrowing relationship. Firstly, many of Yumi and Splenda's detractors had already started digging up some truly concerning information about Splenda's past. Now, I won't be showing any of this on screen purely because I do not wish to dox anybody, but based on what I've seen, on what I've been able to access and fact-checked with regards to timelines and official names, there isn't much doubt in my mind that this is true. But better safe than sorry. Allegedly, based on official documents, Splenda was married to at least one other woman before meeting Yumi, who, based on her name, is allegedly also Asian. They allegedly had at least one child together, and he allegedly left them before pursuing his relationship with Yumi. So just to reiterate the point, after Splenda's ex allegedly had their child, he bounced. Can we see where this is going? In October 2021, Yumi would try to put the rumors to rest by announcing that she and Splenda had been separated for over 6 months already and were going through a divorce.
I'm finally ready to make this video. I was straight to the point. You guys are right. I have been going through divorce. We have been separated over half a year.
Yumi would reassure people that since her separation, her parents had been supporting her and her son.
I read a lot of comments. People ask about my parents. My parents have helped me. I really appreciate all the help they did. I think it's time for me to take the responsibility to be independent, to take care of myself.
Now, this is significant. Yumi had never in her life been independent. She had always been dependent, taken care of, and infantilized. What she was going through and her role as a mother had clearly awakened something within her when suddenly, out of the blue, Splenda dumped her. She was suddenly faced with the realization of who she was.
It's an old Chinese saying, 女子本弱，为母则强. I made some big decisions because of my son. I was too dependent. I did not have a car. I could not drive. Even though I have a driver license, I was afraid of driving. I'm becoming more independent. I got myself a car and I take my son everywhere where I go. I try my best to become independent.
This realization seemed to really ignite something in Yumi. She began to upload again, trying her hand at other forms of content in order to bring an audience back to her channel. Yumi's preteen and teen girl audience were now grown up. They'd naturally moved on to other content, and it felt like many people were only following Yumi in order to post about her on some of the web's most infamous forums. She started in particular doing outfit try-ons, and it is just so incredibly mind-blowing seeing the difference between this Yumi and this Yumi. She was hustling hard, trying to save money, had gotten herself a part-time job, and everything seemed to be going all right for about a year. And then people began to notice that Yumi wasn't living with her parents anymore. It appeared that she was living in either motels or Airbnbs, and Yumi would announce that she and her son were homeless.
No one can help you forever, only yourself. No one you can rely on forever except yourself. I'm not in tears for myself. I feel sad for my son. I wish he would have a happy family. I agree about look for a part-time job, but right now we need to find a place to stay.
Now this was truly bizarre. People didn't understand why Yumi's parents, especially her overprotective mother, would not be helping Yumi and her son, their grandson, during such a turbulent time in their lives, especially considering how Yumi had always lived with her parents as a fully grown adult. According to Yumi, something really bad happened which resulted in their homelessness.
My parents did help me a lot. Something bad happened during that 2 weeks and caused us homeless for almost 2 weeks.
And it was also around this time that rumors began to once again circulate after Splenda and Yumi's official divorce papers went public. These are now behind a paywall of over $100, so I will not be showing them, although there are screenshots galore. But the meat and bones of it is that Splenda petitioned for divorce because, quote, the respondent, that is Yumi, had an affair and had a child during the marriage that is not the biological child of the petitioner. Petitioner seeks to terminate the legal relationship between him and the child. You know when you think that something cannot possibly get worse, and then somehow, with the devil's blessing, it does. Let's just say that the Yumi King community was in a state of complete uproar, particularly because this was during a time in which she was effectively asking her audience for financial support. Trisha Paitis,
I woke up this morning feeling like a chicken nugget.
Well, she donated an alleged amount of $10,000 to Yumi. And now Yumi, homeless and destitute, was being labeled a cheater who had a child with another man while she was married to Splenda. Yumi would essentially be forced to respond to these rumors and the publication of the divorce petition.
About the rumors, I don't mind the assumption people made about me after reading the public records.
She would state that she no longer cared about her public image online.
At this point of everything happened, I don't really care about my online reputation. You don't know what really happened behind. And I don't want to share the story publicly because I don't want to share my son's private life. Even though some people have been thinking the bad things about me. Believe what you want to believe. I don't have time and energy to fight about this.
She stated that the only mistake and error she'd made was publishing so much of her private life online.
So one thing people are right about is I'm not a victim. It's because I made a mistake by sharing my private life on YouTube. That's the mistake I made. It's a big mistake because I shared too much. My private life is caused people angry and caused dramas in real life. Like I said before, ever since I published the video about I'm engaged, I have been getting a lot of dramas since then.
Now, I believe that what she's trying to convey here is that by putting so much of her life with Splenda online, she was now at a disadvantage in being able to counter the petition. And I have many thoughts on this. And mind you, this is all my opinion and evaluation of watching easily 200 plus videos of Splenda, observing how he treated Yumi, and also digging deep into information that is available about him. I do not believe for a single minute that Yumi had a physical affair. This categorically makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know, maybe I'm a misandrist after all, but just by analyzing Yumi's dependent, infantilized situation, her trad values, and her putting every facet of her life online, that she'd have an affair comes as a bit too outlandish, a bit too far removed from everything she's presented of herself. The woman didn't even drive because she was too afraid to go anywhere on her own. As we know, Yumi wanted a forever marriage, a husband to financially care for her and their children, and she got that with Splenda. She was engaged for nearly 2 years to this man. Her dedication to him was blatant. Because Yumi had put so much of her life with Splenda online, there was a lot of information available which arguably could be used against her in divorce proceedings. I also doubt that Yumi had the financial or legal resources to defend herself. Yumi also had no money to her name. She wasn't making a lot of money at all on YouTube based on her dwindling views, and the cost of contesting the divorce petition or appealing it could easily cost her over $10,000 in the state of Georgia. Allegedly lying about your wife to facilitate a divorce and to get out of paying child support is definitely something that people regrettably do, especially people who have already allegedly left their previous ex-Asian wife and child. Also, Splenda's face and behavior is plastered all over the internet, and he at least gives me the tingles of someone who probably had plans to start yet another DDLG relationship in life with yet another unassuming Asian partner. Finding that partner is a lot easier if you can show them that you were the wronged party in your previous relationship, and of course if you aren't going broke paying child support. He's not called Splenda for nothing. What was even more perplexing was Yumi's uploading of a video revealing that she and her son no longer had any family, and that this was worse than going through her divorce, essentially revealing that her family had pretty much deserted her.
What I feel right now, my feeling is worse. It's worse than when I was going through the divorce. I don't have a family, I only have my son.
And as a result of this fallout, Yumi would be made homeless for a second time. She revealed that her family had kicked her out not once, but twice, and that at this point, her son and her were separated until she could find permanent housing.
At this point, I just have to tell you guys the truth. I got kicked out. I didn't want to say that. I got kicked out twice. I can't go back. Even my stuff is not allowed in my family's place. My son is not with me right now. I am away from my child. This is the hardest part. I haven't seen my son since last Sunday. It's been 4 days and it's been very hard for me. He's safe right now. I can't get him until I find a stable home for him. I can't get him right now.
Right, so I think it's important to put all this into context with a sprinkle of my own opinion. As we know, Yumi was raised traditionally, and traditional people don't get divorced and don't become single mothers. As we also know, Yumi's greatest fear and shame in life, and by default, likely her mother's greatest fear and shame, was that Yumi would become a leftover woman. Now, I cannot imagine the amount of shame Yumi probably felt and was being made to feel for this divorce and by being left by her husband. Yumi would even reveal that she didn't want to ever get a divorce and admired people who raised families as a nuclear unit.
I never wanted to get divorced. I always wanted a happy family, and I
always wanted a happy husband.
Now, this is just my speculative hunch, but based on everything we know, I'd hazard that Yumi's parents, specifically her mother, wanted her to go back on her hands and knees to Splenda. I think the shame of Splenda divorcing Yumi and her not groveling to save her toxic marriage was probably a bit too much for her family. And I think she was kicked out after it became clear that Yumi wasn't going back, that Splenda didn't want her back, that no reconciliation was going to happen. During this whole debacle, people online were also hounding Yumi for not getting a full-time job and putting her son into daycare. Now, Yumi always had a rather idealistic, sheltered and dependent view of love and marriage. And this kind of thinking doesn't come from nowhere. She was raised to be dependent, not independent. The delusion, primarily from her family, in expecting her to transition from full dependency and infantilism into an independent single mother with a newborn, is ludicrous, nonsensical, ridiculous, asinine. Yumi didn't even drive in a part of the United States where driving is a necessity, which tells you everything. If I raise my daughter to be a submissive, objectified housewife, it would be entirely witless of me to expect her to fend for herself and her child when she's had absolutely no experience or skill in doing so. Surely, am I wrong here? But one thing I know about women is that somehow, against all the odds, we persevere through the bullshit. Yumi would eventually get herself a micro studio apartment. She'd get her son back and would start making YouTube videos again, saving enough to finally move into a better sized apartment. One thing that was interesting during this time is that Yumi started making videos in more revealing, sexy outfits. That is, she started making videos reminiscent of content she'd made years ago, which got her views. And I find it interesting that she liked a comment on one of these videos stating that she didn't have to make videos in skimpy clothes. Her fans would happily listen to her just chat about life. And so she stopped making these videos in skimpy outfits. Actually, she'd kind of stopped making videos altogether, and I'm not exactly sad about that.
Hi everyone! Today I'm going to make the highly requested video, which is one of my current diet.
The online footprint of Yumi King is a revelatory and somewhat eerie one. For nearly 10 years, we can see the evolution of a young, somewhat dewy-eyed woman into an identity of dependence, infantilization, and centering the white male gaze above all else. We can see the consequences of being socialized and pressured into becoming a male fantasy at the expense of becoming oneself, and especially how difficult it is to find or create oneself when everyone and everything is telling you otherwise. However, unlike Susie Wong and the still popular Western trope of Asian women as helpless and docile objects of male validation, Yumi proved not just to Splenda, but importantly to herself, that she is not a fantasy. She's a complex person and ought to be treated as such. It is so hard to break with what we know and feel secure in, to break with what society and our loved ones expect of us. As an immigrant myself, I know how difficult it is to navigate a sense of identity, especially when you're constantly perceived as a stereotype or caricature of your physical appearance. When everybody treats you as an object, as a trope, as a stereotype, as a fetish, you're going to naturally think that's not only all you are, but that it's normal. But let me tell you, there is nothing normal with 96% of what society has bestowed the label normal upon. May this deep dive be a cautionary tale to you all, as well as a hopeful tale. Although Yumi hasn't posted to YouTube in 5 months, she seems to be doing a lot better. She has a car, a job, an apartment, and her son back. She is proof that you can, against all odds, rebuild your life when everything is suddenly taken from you. When a man proves not to be a plan, when your own flesh and blood proves not to be a plan. She is testament that it is never too old to find who you really are. It's hard, I know. While you're watching this, I'm currently moving across the country to rebuild my life and rediscover at least some of my identity, but it's possible. I truly wish Yumi and her son all the very best. And now, brethren, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about these particular fetishes? What do you think about Yumi and Splenda's relationship? Have any of you experienced something like this? I would love to know. I'm frothing at the mouth now. Feed me your stories, feed me your comments and your insights. Thank you so very much for watching this insanely long video. The script was over 11,000 words long and my vocal cords are about to revolt. so I'll keep it brief. Do let me know down below if there's internet personalities you'd like me to cover next, and thank you so very much for your patience as I move and reestablish my bearings. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see all of you very, very soon in the next one. I remember telling my ex-boyfriend very personal, like the story of my life story, and I remember his response to that being, do you have AIDS? After we'd been dating for almost a year, I believe, at that point. I don't know. I don't know if that counts as a stereotype, but oh my goodness, some of these guys are weird. Splenda is not alone. Oh, what a world. What a sick, sad world we live in.